For years, this stretch of West London wasn't just empty, it was suspended. Not under construction, not progressing, just waiting. A global recognised site erased, then left behind. Now after more than a decade of delays, backlash and redesigns, one of the biggest regeneration projects London has ever attempted is finally moving forward. A £10 billion rebuild, 4,000 new homes and an entirely new district rising where an icon once stood. But this story isn't about scale, it's about why this took so long, what nearly derailed it, and what could still change everything. This is where London erased one of its most famous venues, and then froze. For decades, Earls Court wasn't just a structure, it was a movement, noise and global attention. Motor shows, concerts and exhibitions are the things that passed through here. Then almost overnight it stopped. The exhibition centre closed in 2014, and by 2017 it had completely been demolished. What followed wasn't progress, it was just silence. 44 acres of cleared land, sitting between some of the best transport connections in the city, surrounded by dense neighbourhoods, and yet nothing rose from it. Year after year passed with no cranes, no construction, and no certainty. What should have been one of London's fastest transformations became one of its most viable stalls. And that absence started to matter, not just symbolically, but politically and economically. Because a site this large, in this location, doesn't stay neutral for long, which is where the next phase of this story begins. The first version of this future never stood a chance, because the problem wasn't money or ambition or even location, it was trust. Early redevelopment plans went beyond the exhibition site itself, proposing demolition of nearby re-industrial estates. That immediately ignited years of resident opposition, protests and as well as court disputes. Local communities feared displacement, councils came under pressure, and what was meant to be a flagship regeneration turned into a prolonged standoff. Eventually the developer withdrew. The plans collapsed and Earls Court turned into a shorthand for how regeneration can go wrong. Bold renderings, no delivery, and promises that never reached ground level. By the end of the 2010s, the site wasn't just empty, it was politically radioactive, which is why the next attempt looked very different. This is where the story quietly resets. No dramatic relaunch, no flashy press event, just a slower, more deliberate approach. A new development partnership stepped in, backed by long-term institutional funding rather than short-term speculation. The vision expanded into something much bigger. A £10 billion mixed-use district built over decades, not years. Not a single megastructure, but a layered neighbourhood, bringing around 4,000 new homes, millions of square foot of workspace, including cultural venues, schools, community facilities and nearly 20 acres of public space. This time, the consultation wasn't rushed, plans were adjusted, surrounding estates were left intact, and after years of scrutiny, both local councils finally approved the masterplan in late 2025. On paper, the reset worked, but approval is the only starting line. Regeneration always sounds good, until you ask who it's actually for. Housing pressure sharpens that question very fast, and in London, every large development becomes a debate about access, affordability and permanence. The Earls Court plan commits to around 35% affordable housing, alongside private sale homes, rentals and student accommodation, and later life living. Supporters argue it delivers thousands of new homes in a supply-starved city, while reopening land that's been inaccessible for years. Opponents express concern about density, building height and whether affordability will hold across multi-decade build. Whether this becomes a lived-in neighbourhood or a polished investment zone that looks busy but seems empty. This tension isn't just abstract, it will define how the area feels long after the cranes leave, and it grows stronger once construction actually begins. Because this isn't just being built all at once, and that changes everything. Construction is expected to start from 2026, but full completion stretches deep into the 2040s. Early phases focus on infrastructure and initial housing. Later phases bring denser residential blocks, major employment spaces and cultural venues. That phasing reduces financial risk, but it brings in a different kind of vulnerability. Economic cycles shift, political priorities change, and projects that begin with one vision can quietly become something different. Long-term timelines project regeneration, but they also expose it, which leads directly to the biggest gamble of all. £10 billion only works if the future shows up. The plan positions Earls Court as a centre for innovation, clean technology and creative industries. Forecasts point to more than 14,000 on-site jobs and billions of pounds added to the economy each year once fully operational. And those numbers depend on assumptions. That demand for workspace holds, and that London remains globally competitive, and that hybrid work doesn't hollow out office districts faster than they can be built. If those assumptions hold, Earls Court becomes a model for modern regeneration. If they don't, scale becomes liability instead of strength. And just as this vision was locking into place, another possibility briefly hovered around the site. And what followed was a rumour that could have changed everything, because for a while, Earls Court wasn't just being discussed by planners and developers, it was being talked about in boardrooms, supporter forums and football columns. The idea that Chelsea Football Club might one day land here. Chelsea have long faced a problem. Stamford Bridge just holds 40,000 fans. This is small by elite European standards, and expanding it has always been complex. That's why the idea of nearby move kept resurfacing. Earls Court, less than a mile away, became the most plausible alternative. There was reported discussions, conversations with transport bodies and developers, nothing formal but enough to fuel serious speculation. Homes, offices, parks, culture, but no stadium. That decision didn't officially kill the idea, but it made it dramatically harder. With the land now being locked into long-term regeneration framework, the most realistic version of a Chelsea move to Earls Court effectively disappeared. Not because football wasn't powerful enough, but because this site had already chosen its future. So the land is approved, the funding is structured, and the timeline has been set. But regeneration doesn't succeed on drawings or planning documents. This succeeds on momentum. The first cranes will mould public trust, the first homes will set perception, and the first delays, if they come, will spread across every phase that follows. Because Earls Court isn't just rebuilding a site, it's testing whether London still knows how to deliver projects at scale without losing the people they're meant to serve. And once construction truly begins, that's when the real story starts. Personally, this is one of the most exciting regeneration projects London has on the table right now. Not just because of its scale, but because of what it's trying to fix. Earls Court has been a viable gap in the city for years, and the idea of turning the silence into homes, jobs, culture and public space feels overdue. But this only works if delivery matches the ambition. With a project this large and this long, timing and momentum are as important as the design. If it's phased carefully, built transparently and doesn't lose sight of the communities around it, Earls Court could become a model for how London regenerates properly. But if the timeline slips or stalls, it risks becoming another warning story. Right now, it sits exactly between two futures. If you enjoyed this video and you want more videos just like this, make sure that you like the video, subscribe to my channel and comment your thoughts on this story in the comments below.